Hi everybody, hope you're having a good day so far. And it's been a hot one out there, so hopefully you can get out of the heat and keep cool. Hopefully we get that rain that we're promised, so cool everything down and water the grass that we so desperately need to water. But for today, I want to share with you guys what I what we did with the youth this week at Bible study. Kind of helps too because I forgot about the video I'm supposed to do every Tuesday. But luckily, we did Bible study Wednesday night, so I have this ready. So we're in Matthew 5. We're going through the Sermon on the Mount with the youth, and so we're at verse 27, where Christ talks about lust. I'll read a couple verses here. You have heard it that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And so we see here that we may not have committed the act of adultery, but even if we look at somebody and lust after them, that's the same thing, the same sin, and it's going to take us down that same road if we had done the act. And so we know with the youth we've talked about. The movies we watch, TV shows, and especially social media, the world's main focus is on what's on the outside, and they know what gets our attention. We know they purposely put in the best looking guys and girls, and the clothing doesn't really cover much nowadays, and so they know that's going to appeal to the majority of the world, and it's going to keep their attention and draw them into to these different formats of media. And we know with social media too, there's a lot of videos out there and on TikTok and Instagram where we have these individuals that are being very popular because of the dances they do, and there's a lot there that can take you off track and take your time up and get you thinking the wrong things, right, with the outfits they have and what's going on and the challenges they do in some of these videos. So we got to be careful what we watch and what we allow to be in our lives. And so for us, not even just only the kids and youth, but we got to be careful that we don't want to start lusting over the opposite sex when we see them, and we know when that happens, we make that person an object. We know with lust, it's a selfish act, and it's a desire that we want for ourselves. We don't really care about the other person. It's just something that we like, and we desire it, and we covet it, and we want it to have. And that's what Christ is saying there. When we do that in our mind, it's the same thing as actually doing it yourself. And so we make sure be careful that we don't start down that road and start looking at others in that way and coveting things that we don't have. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you can see after Christ talks about divorce. There's a few verses down, and so that's one thing we got to make sure that we keep our eyes and our hearts clean from that act of coveting something, and that even leads into us coveting other things in our lives. So if it isn't just lustful things we look at and wanting them, but we can go down that road. We know in Exodus 20, the Ten Commandments, where it talks in verse 17 about not coveting your neighbor's house or his servants or his wife, and et cetera, et cetera. And we want to make sure that we don't start wanting things that we don't have, or desiring things for ourselves. Because when we do that, we feed our own desires, and when we start looking at people that way, or even objects, or things that we don't have. I asked the kids, you ever had something, you wanted something so bad that's all you could focus on and want? And we all know, birthdays and Christmases as a kid, it was always what's next, the newest thing, and we would throw the old toys away or just never play with them again. And so that kind of, if we get into that habit, we never stop that desire, because we can't feed that desire, right? That won't stop. We see that in the world now, that none of this none of these things that we want or we covet or any of our desires satisfy us. And so we got to make sure we keep Christ in our mind, our heart, and we keep Him the focus, and not the worldly desires that we have in our heart that we allow to come out and feed off of, and allow that to grow. Because once we do that, once we start, even lusting after, people, or coveting things that we don't have, that becomes our desire, our focus, our love, and we push everything else to the side, and that becomes our main. It's kind of like putting a crosshairs on it, and we don't stop until we get it, and we know it's not going to make us happy. But for sure, we want to make sure that the lusting isn't there in our eyes, that we don't start that, because that's going to start the ball rolling in sin, and can take us to a spot where it's going to be a bigger sin, bigger consequences, and in some cases it is divorce, or if it's objects we want, we're not happy with what God's given us, we're not satisfied with what we have, and that can really take us down spots where we spend money where we shouldn't, or even just wasting things and not being appreciative of what the Lord has given us. And so this for us, what we can take away from this is, the other verses right after that talks about, taking your eye out and cutting your arm off. If they sin, it's better to lose a member of your body than to lose your whole body in hell. And I think that's a very clear warning that if we allow this to grow in us, how it's going to consume us. It's going to take over all of us, every part of our body. And so it's a dangerous thing we don't want to get into. We don't want to have a habit of, and so we got to make sure that we have our eyes are clean and our heart's clean, and we don't allow ourselves to covet things that we don't have and start wishing that we had these things. And so we're so lucky to have God, and His grace and mercy is enough, and we need to keep focusing on Him, focusing on what He's given us, and be content in what we have. And the old story, the grass is it's never greener on the other side. And so we got to remember that, and not allow our selfish desires to take over, and wanting things that we shouldn't want at all, and just to be happy and satisfied with what we have in life, whoever it is with, or whatever things we have. It doesn't matter the house you have or the car. We talked about this with the kids, that we leave this world exactly the same way we came in, and so these things of this world are very temporary, but we want to be focused on eternity. The world's thinking about now because that's all they have, but we have eternity with Christ, and we want to be saving our rewards in heaven, because we'll have those forever, and that's what's really going to matter. The things here are just going to be tossed away or thrown out after we're gone, and so we want to make sure that we are focused on the right thing, which is Christ, and the things that He's asked of us, because we follow Him, we'll have that peace in our life and that fulfillment. But we follow our own desires, we're going to have heartache and brokenness. And so that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. And it's the things that we watch, we just want to make sure that while we're watching what we're watching, or listening to what we're listening to, even if it is just because we enjoy the show, but these things are in there, and we got to just make sure we don't allow that to become something we spend hours watching or listening to, because it will affect us. And so we've got to really, I think, be very wise and diligent on what we do these days, and we watch and allow to be in front of us, because it will, after a while, become normal and part of us. And so we got to cleanse ourselves, our eyes, and that, and keep our eyes on Christ. So everybody, hope you have a good day, and we'll talk to you next week.